CBT Nuggets ServerPlus Series Introduction to CompTIA ServerPlus. Hi, my name is Michael Shannon, and on behalf of myself and everybody at CBT Nuggets, I want to welcome you and thank you for choosing CBT Nuggets for your training solution. Let's take a look at what we're going to cover in the ServerPlus series. In this introductory nugget, we're going to cover three main topics. First of all, we'll get an overview of the exam, then we'll go through the exam objectives, and then we'll finish up with some study tips to help you get the most out of this ServerPlus series. The CompTIA ServerPlus 2009 edition certification is a global, vendor-neutral credential, and it's a validation of fundamental level server skills and knowledge used by IT professionals all around the globe. The knowledge base and the skill set measured by this exam came from an industry-wide job task analysis, JTA, and validated through a 2008 international survey. This certification is targeted towards individuals who hopefully have about 18 to 24 months of IT experience. It's not a prerequisite, but it's highly recommended by CompTIA that you have a CompTIA A+ certification as well. It's not a prerequisite, it's just recommended. Now this exam is broken up into 6 domains. You've got the system hardware domain for about 21%, software domain for 19%, the storage domain for 14%, IT environment for 11%, disaster recovery for 11%, and then, believe it or not, almost a quarter of the exam is on troubleshooting, probably one of the most marketable skills in the IT market today. The exam code for this ServerPlus exam is going to be SK0002. So if you're looking to schedule that exam, there's going to be 80 questions, and you've got 90 minutes to answer those 80 questions. You have to get a passing score of 615. That's on a scale of 100 to 900. So 900 is the highest score. You need a 615 to pass. Again, A+ is recommended but not required, and this test is offered in English and Japanese. Let's get a breakdown of the exam objectives, domain by domain. The first domain is the system hardware domain. And then we're going to be covering all this information in this Nugget series, by the way, which is why we're kind of going over this. This is my introduction. We'll be looking at system board types and features and components, things like onboard components like NICs and video and audio, expansion slots, the BIOS, storage connectors. We'll look at deploying different chassis types and components, cooling, form factor, power, redundant power, those types of things. We'll look at memory types and features, memory pairing, ECC versus non-ECC, memory types, compatibility, things like that. The importance of the hardware compatibility list will be covered there as well. We'll look at different processor types and features, multi-core, multi-processor, those types of things, installing expansion cards and considering fault tolerance. And along with that, we'll look at installing, updating, and configuring the appropriate firmware. In the software domain, we'll look at installing, deploying, and configuring and updating our network operating system. The main network operating system that we're going to be working off of in this Nugget series is Windows 2008. We'll look at network operating system security software and its features, implementing and administering network operating system management features. We'll explain the different server roles. We'll summarize server virtualization concepts and features, including the reasons for virtualization. And we'll look at common elements of networking essentials. We'll look at TCP/IP, Ethernet, virtual private networks, VLANs, and DMZs as they relate to a firewall deployment. The third domain is storage. Our general topics being RAID technology, features and benefits, redundant array of independent or inexpensive disks, choosing the proper level of RAID, and there's several, installing and configuring internal storage technologies, things like hot swappable versus non-hot swappable, SCSI, SAS, SATA, tape, optical, those issues, and then external storage technologies, network attached storage, storage area networks, worm, optical jukebox, transport media, those types of things. The fourth domain is information technology environment. Here we're going to look at documentation, diagrams, policies and procedures, the industry best practices for managing your IT environment, server location and physical environment. For example, looking for adequate and dedicated power, power amperage and voltage, server cooling considerations, HVAC, things like that. Then we'll look at methods for server access, direct and remote methods, and then finally we'll classify physical security measures for server location. The fifth domain is disaster recovery. We're going to compare backup and restore techniques, media types and concepts. We'll look at methodologies like full, incremental, and differential backups, different media types. Then we'll look at contrasting different replication methods. We'll explore data retention and destruction or disposition concepts. And then finally, putting together a disaster recovery plan. Finally, we have the troubleshooting domain, which, as I mentioned, is almost 25% of the exam. We'll look at troubleshooting theory and methodologies. We'll talk about the troubleshooting hardware issues, the tools that you can use, and other specific methods for troubleshooting. We'll talk about software issues, tools, and methodologies. We'll look at diagnosing network problems, the tools and the methods, and then finally, troubleshooting storage problems, tools, and methodologies. Well, there's the 6 domains of the ServerPlus exam, a basic outline. I'll obviously have much more granular details as we get into each one of these topics, one at a time, throughout this remaining ServerPlus Nugget series. Finally, I want to give you my study tips. I've been developing CBT nuggets for over 6 years now, so I have a pretty good idea of how to be successful with this particular training solution. I want to recommend highly that you set aside dedicated study time, okay? Plan your time. Make sure that when you sit down with your CBT nugget, you have uninterrupted, dedicated time to concentrate heavily on the task at hand. This is not an easy exam, so make sure that you are taking in as much information as you can. I want to recommend also, if you do have the time, that you consider going through this series twice. Maybe going through one time and outlining it or taking notes, and then the second time just go through and scan each nugget, maybe a couple of days or the week before you plan on taking your exam. Also, make sure you enjoy the process. The more that you're relaxed and enjoying the process of learning, the better you're going to do in the long run. I want to recommend also that you get some real-world hands-on experience as much as you can. Remember that they would like to see you have 12 to 18 months of real-world IT experience. So consider going and getting evaluation copies of operating systems and at least install them on the best server you can find so you get a chance to go through some of these processes. You might want to go up on eBay, for example, and purchase a server, maybe on a credit card, use it for a couple of months, and then just resell it as part of your study and part of your preparation for the ServerPlus exam. Well, with that being said, we now have an overview of the exam. We know the exam objectives, the main objectives, and you have some good tips for getting the most out of the CBT Nugget series. Let's go ahead and jump right into our first topic. And our first topic's actually from the software domain. We're going to get our feet wet and start off slow and easy as we look at different server roles, the purpose of those server roles, and how they interact with one another. And we'll be doing that on my Windows Server 2008 system. I hope this CBT Nugget's been informative for you. I want to thank you for viewing. We'll see you in the next ServerPlus Nugget.